This agenda item is a presentation by the Houston Police Department, the Office of Sustainability and Bike Houston as well regarding bike safety. We heard already from Chief Eisman, but we're also going to hear now from Captain Satterwhite with the Houston Police Department Special Operations Division. And then we'll also hear presentations from Director Spangen with the Mayor's Office of Sustainability and Mr. Michael Payne, the Executive Director of Bike Houston. Captain.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Council, for having us. Thank you for having us today. We'd like to talk to you about the initiatives that the Houston Police Department is partnering with the city on, some of the organizations in our efforts to ensure that the cyclists and the driving public, the motorist public, is safe and in the interest of public safety and maintaining mobility for all users of the roadway. So we have a short presentation for you. Next slide, please. So first I want to talk to you about what are vulnerable road users. As you can see, the list just isn't bicyclists, includes pedestrians, stranded motorists, construction workers. As a matter of fact, there's a long list and it's a growing list. That's anyone basically that's on the road, and you can just logically think that anybody that's out there for whatever reason, be it work or maybe they've had an issue, or maybe they're using the roadway by another means, they're vulnerable. So we want to make sure that we protect everybody on the roadway while we maintain mobility for the public. Next slide, please. So these are some statistics just to show you just 2012 and 2013 in Houston. Some of our bicycle crashes, specifically auto cyclists. While the numbers have ticked down slightly from 2012 to 2013, they're still pretty consistent and still unacceptable. Our efforts are going to be to reduce those crashes and improve the safety for the motorists, for the cyclists, for pedestrians, anyone that uses the roadway. Next slide, please. So there's some of the education efforts that we're using, that we're applying in the Houston Police Department. We have created a public service announcement, which you all just got to view for the first time. As a matter of fact, it was just completed the day before, so the timing was very good for us. But we want to get it out there as quickly as possible for the public to view and bring attention to this issue. We've also created a Show the Roadway brochure that we are issuing out or distributing throughout to the public in every venue that we can, be it through bike shops that we go and pass to, or maybe through PIP meetings that we have, or any public forum that we're in. We're trying to bring the public aware, make them aware of the issues of the new law about safe passage for cyclists, and just bring attention to this issue. So cyclist education, we also have cars that we passed out. We actually started this last year in heavily for the Houston Police Department, and we started with the brochure I'll show you here in a minute on PowerPoint that we actually got from Bike Houston, and they're here today to talk. But then we eventually crafted our own to incorporate the safe passage ordinance and some issues that we thought were important. And then also education, which is probably one of the major components of this. We want to educate the public, but we want to educate our own people, make sure that they understand all the laws concerning cyclists as well as motorists. Training is ongoing and it's constant. We do reissue circulars throughout the department to bring attention to this, to be read to all officers to make sure that they all understand the expectations of the department and what their mission is regarding safety out of the public on the roadways. And we'll also follow with actual training that's underway and we're prepared through our LMS system. But basically, for those that don't know, it's a way to get videos and additional training to officers as quickly as possible so that they have those tools to use on the roadway. Next slide. So this is the card that we created that we're now issuing out to all the bike shops to the public in every community forum that we can. It has some information, some tips on the roadway safety and usage, and it also discusses the laws regarding bicycles and bicycle safety and the safe passage ordinance. Next slide, please. Next slide.
It's just a little slow right now, Captain.
Okay.
If you that, can you have a handout?
Actually, do have a handout,
Yeah,
y'all.
one too as well, and then we'll catch up with us.
Everyone else should, within council, I think we distributed.
Yes,
And
we
that's
all.
right. So the next slide will depict the cycle chart that we started with last year in September distributing. And that one was created by Bike Houston, and I'll let Bike Houston discuss more if they wish to on that. I think they have an updated card anyway. So enforcement efforts, with every part of our plan, we look at it comprehensively. Education is the things that we have led with, but certainly enforcement is always a component that unfortunately we have to apply in certain ways to ensure that we're getting the behaviors that we're looking for, that we're trying to get the public to adopt and create safety for everyone. So some of our enforcement efforts, specifically to the safe passage ordinance, have been plainclothes officers on cyclists, on bicycles, using our streets. It's a very directed approach where we have officers riding up and down the streets, and we have aggressive motorists. If they violate the safe passage ordinance, then we're stopping and either warning or citing for that offense. We've actually conducted 7 operations to this point, and within that, we've had 3 citations and one warning given. I will say that for my officers, it's out of my division, the Special Operations Division, that is taking lead on this. My officers are communicating back to me that for the most part, the motorists are giving them a wide berth, and I'm happy to say that the motorists are showing them respect on the roadways. We're only citing when they violate the law, and otherwise, if it's close, we may warn them. But the idea is to change public behavior, but also bring attention to the new and educate the public on the new laws. Because a lot of the public doesn't know that this new law and this ordinance is in place now. Again, it talks a little bit about what we've done in terms of 81 man hours and the officers have had out there working this program. We'll continue doing this on the roadways. I will say that officers are also being educated and they're watching for this, but it is very difficult to identify this violation without a complainant. You can imagine that if you're 100 yards away, which in many cases probably about the distance a patrol officer may be behind a bicyclist and a motorist, judging what's 3 feet and what's not is very difficult to do. And so obviously we're watching and they're alert and they're being mindful of that, but those things become a little bit more difficult to enforce minus a complainant. So when a complaint, so that's why probably more than anything we haven't had more citations written, but everyone's being made aware, and as we bring more attention to this and more focus on it, those citations may rise. I would rather hope that we'll just get more cooperation from motorists and to abide by the 3-foot rule or even greater distances. Also, like I said, that we, again, it's not just cyclists, but it's pedestrians. We've had issues running in the downtown area to educate pedestrians and motorists again, to respect each other. Safety being our #1 goal. Next slide, please. So, specifically, one of the reasons we started heavily focusing on this last year was we have an organization that's riding in Houston on a regular basis, monthly, last Friday of every month, called Critical Mass. And this is a large bicycle club that's continued to grow, and they've been very successful because their numbers have continued to grow. And so they have actually been riding in Houston for more than a couple of years, as I understand it. It may be longer. I'll let them speak to that. I think they may have somebody here scheduled to speak. But that said, it's been going on in Houston for a long time. They've just been very successful of late. Their numbers are very swell. And so with that, with every organization or every club that grows, uses the roadways, there's lots of good things, but there's also a few bad things that happen out of that. And in terms of safety and it creates additional delays. Critical Mass specifically was started in the 1990s in San Francisco, but in Houston, I'm not sure of the exact date it started in Houston. Regardless, it has grown to be a very large group now with a lot of avid riders, but a lot of families, it's very diverse in terms of its numbers and participation. With the biggest issue for us being the sheer numbers that are riding now on this monthly basis. We did have field several complaints over the months leading up to. So what we realized is that we had to get a better understanding of the club and try to work with them in terms of trying to make increase safety for the bicyclists and for the motors, and ensure mobility. So back in September, we started meeting with the leadership, discussing better ways for them to have their ride while we improve safety. In that ride, we had nothing operational beyond issuing out the bicycle safety and cards that we've gotten from Like Houston before we created our own. Followed that with also appealing to them to be conscious of their own way to communicate to their ridership about respecting the laws of the road, about respecting traffic law, and ensuring that everyone has equal right and everybody's rights are recognized while they're on the roadway, not just the cyclists, but also the motorists and pedestrians and everyone else that uses our roadways. Next slide, please. So our goals have always been public safety, number one, life safety, ensuring that everyone's rights are protected, ensuring that everyone's allowed to use the roadways fairly and according to the laws that we have in place, and also to bring attention to everyone about the traffic law and about how important it is that they do follow the laws of the roadways and respect each other. As you can see, we started in September, which was very minor. That's when we just went out and had the education. We met with the leadership, and then we have been meeting since then once before every ride. We met with the leadership to discuss their plans, to look at their route, to evaluate those routes, to decide what it would be, how we might best ensure mobility. I think it's really important to state that while we've been working with them, and they've been very good, the leadership has been fantastic. They're working with us, and I think they sincerely want to have positive rides for the city and for the public, and to always respect the laws and rights of everyone on the roadway. We have not been escorting them in any of these rides. The way we have made the approach of the Houston Police Department is that we have identified major intersections that we know that we had to maintain mobility through in the event of emergencies and issues, and ensuring that the public can get through those prime areas so that no one is adversely affected by this any long delays. Understanding that now these rides that went from just a few hundred have in October amassed over 4,000, and then since then the smaller rides have still climbed to between 1,500 and 2,000 per membership. So that takes a long time, especially with that the riders are not all the same. They're not all strong riders. Some of them are families and small children, and some of these rides stretch out for a long period of time. So the idea being is that knowing this and understanding what's going on, our goal is to ensure that they're as safe as possible, but also to ensure that we are getting traffic through those really critical areas, certainly on the freeways where they go through those intersections and other major arteries within the Houston, to ensure that mobility is maintained for everybody. So as you can see, we have a little bit a list of some of the costs that we've incurred doing this. The department, the city have been picking up these costs so far. It rose in the month of February because with any large group that we've had, there's always, and I'm sure everyone can understand this, there's always at least a small contingent that somehow still is failing to obey or to buy into what we're trying to accomplish, which is respecting the laws of the roadways. So we ticked up slightly in February for more enforcement, and that was the first time we've written citations to any of the riders. I'm happy to say that for the most part, all the ridership, and by and large, overwhelmingly, they're very cooperative and they're obeying the laws. They're stopping now at the intersections on their own. So we're really anticipating being able to scale right back down in our costs and man hours and resources that we dedicate to this event. But there will always be some small contingent with the sheer number of riders that participate. Next slide, please.